thing I jumped out of, it went back up and I would have made 20% on it. The thing I
Mm-mm.
jumped into, it went down 50%.
50%.
It went down.
Wow.
It was a drastic fall, and I was like, wow. I just stepped back.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Limitless Podcast. Joining us, as always, is our co host, Dr. Matthew Preston. Hail up the people, and Matthew.
Hey guys, what's good?
And I'm Theon Sims. Today, joining us again, very special guest, top striker Shanice in the building. Yeah,
Hey
cue the
guys.
audio effects. Yeah, there are gonna be some audio effects that Presta will put in at some point. Welcome back, Shanice. Oh, look at
Thank you guys. Thank you.
that. Great to
Oh
have you
boy.
back on the show, Shanice.
Great to
Great
be
to have you
back.
back.
Great to be back, guys.
How's it been? How's this year been? 2023. Wow.
This year, yeah, 2023, it's been busy, like personal wise. On the market, I mean, we've all been in the market. It was a
Mm-hmm.
humbling year, I'd say.
Okay,
But
felt.
yeah, man. But all in all, it still wasn't bad. I'm still not ending up in a loss this year. I may not be looking at like a triple digit gain, but compared to I know a lot of even like big portfolios are suffering right now. Like the
Yeah.
market kind of rough.
Mm-hmm.
Some would
Mm-hmm.
say it's soft.
Yeah. Some would some would say it's
Mm-hmm.
soft. You
But
touched on our first point about personally, things have changed. Would you like to share anything for the people and that because
I mean,
your episode was big last year,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
did share where your goals were, what you were doing at the time, how you went through a financial course at the JSC to where you are now, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot's changed. I mean, Preston and I know a lot's changed, but we want you to, to tell us. I tell our
To fill in
listeners, like, what,
fill in,
All
yeah.
right, I
yeah,
mean, you guys are trying to drag this out on me.
yeah.
But yeah, man, definitely a lot's changed. So I'm fully, you know, immersed into the industry now on the professional side. No longer just some girl behind her screen trading.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually in the industry. I'm at Mayberry. I'm in an advisory position.
Nice.
So I am in that state in my life right now. It's been pretty good. It's a learning process. Um, it's just one of the next steps. Looking forward to the step after this, which is going to be even bigger, I'm sure. Next year is going to be a pretty good year. But
Nice.
yeah, definitely. So it's been an interesting year, both in and
Okay.
out of the market. It has.
Okay. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Love to see that. Love to see that. Okay. I see you've gotten new headphones, so looking very prosperous indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
wait,
So,
what's next? The only thing I could think of what's next from this is managing director of the JSE. I remember some people were talking about that. You're like, yeah, she's gonna retire. She's gonna retire
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
next
She
year?
up for retirement soon. Mm-hmm.
I think it's
Is this
next
it?
year or end of this year. Yeah, I need to double check, but I know it's soon. I
I
know
have to
it's
double
soon.
check it. It's
So
been soon,
yeah,
so yeah,
but we'll
man.
see.
I
Maybe
mean,
it'll be
who
like
knows? Who
shorting.
knows? We've been waiting on shorting for how long
Short.
now?
It's supposed to be. Last time they said was what? I think end of
At least
last
two
year it was
years
supposed
now.
to happen, and
Yeah,
yeah, they
mm-hmm.
just
yeah. I remember there was a whole training by the JSC which I went to for the
Yeah.
I forgot
shorting, and
revise that training.
still didn't happen. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So talk to us. How has the market been in this year? You said it was humbling. Also humbling for me as well, personally. I didn't do as well as I thought I would have this year. I mean, even people, you always hear the doom and gloom about the market, and people are saying it from earlier this year. Take your money out of equities, blah blah blah. Market's going down, market's soft, this that that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But I still thought I did decent this year, but not to the goals that I set out for myself.
Yeah.
But how has it been for you personally?
Yeah, definitely agree. I think I did decent as well, but I'd say it's humbling because I'm used to these huge gains and I'm used to the market behaving a certain way. And the market this year was not the market last year, was not the market 2021, 2020. So it was completely different. I had to learn new strategies this year.
Mm-hmm.
And them being so fresh, it's going to take a while to perfect it. So there was a lot of mistakes made on my end this year that I had to learn from, pivot from that, and actually learn how to make money in the kind of market conditions that we're having now, because they're, I wouldn't want to say they're strange because this is not the first time something like this is happening, like historically. But I would say for me, somebody that's been trading for like the past 6, 7 years, this is a brand new market, and you have to kind of learn how to make money in every different kind of market because the market is constantly changing. So it was humbling in what I thought I knew. Definitely was not going to be applying to a lot of the things that happened this year. So, but it was still good. I enjoyed the lessons this year. I enjoyed the wins that I had. They're pretty fulfilling when they happen, when I actually learned that, boom, I made a plan, stuck to it, it happened, how I say it was going to happen, and I made some money. Awesome. So, yeah, man, this year, sales are here. Looking forward to next year. I'm sure it'll be brand new again, and we'll have to learn that again, and just keep making money.
You
Yep.
said something so interesting about you enjoyed the lessons. I mean,
Yeah,
some lessons for me,
Some
no,
lessons
I
some
do
of the
juicy.
lessons
enjoy.
rough. Some of the lessons
Listen, some
rough,
lessons.
Some
Some
lessons
lessons will
rough.
drape you
This
up.
year,
Yo.
let me tell you something that happened to me this year. So
Mm-hmm.
I was in a particular trade. I won't say what it is, and it wasn't happening like in the time that I thought I wanted it to happen. So I'm like, you know what? It's better I take a 10% loss on this trade and go into something that is going to make me way more than the 10% loss and even more in the time that I think it's going to be. So, and I was panicking that, the trade that I was waiting on with the 10% loss, it just wasn't happening in the time. So, boom, I jump out, I go into something else. The thing I jumped out of, it went back up and I would have made 20% on it. The thing I
Mm-mm.
jumped into, it went down 50%.
50%.
It went down. It
Wow.
was a drastic fall, and I was like, wow. I just stepped back. I think most people just started at that point, but stepped back, kind of had to reevaluate everything. In moments like those, I don't really like to trade, so I actually
Yeah.
made the loss stay for a little bit, kind of think it through, and then I was actually able to come back out of that 50% loss. So by coming out of that stuff and going into other things. So yeah, there are a lot of lessons this year, and I was really grateful for them.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's tough. That's tough,
It's
Preston.
tough.
So
It's
whenever
tough.
I
It's tough.
when I make those kind of like L's, well, 50% is heavy still. I'm not gonna lie,
It was heavy.
but anytime I make an L like that, right, it's tough on my mental state, and you're trying to remove that whole mental anguish. And I remember something Preston always says is yo, unfortunately, the thing to get you back to your original position and more, you just have to keep investing. Like no
You
matter
just have to
what,
keep
okay, you're
investing.
down
Right?
50%. And the only way you're gonna get that back is you just have to keep investing.
You
And
just have to
that's
keep.
a
Yeah,
hard
it's hard.
lesson to learn.
It's a very hard lesson, and
Yep.
it's even harder
Motivation could
trying
be
to
at zero.
convince people of that. Like being
Exactly.
in the field, like me
Yeah.
telling somebody that
Yeah, I
it
could imagine
sounds
as
it
an
sounds crazy.
advisor, and at being
Yeah,
an. The thing is, when did you become an advisor?
This is my second year being an advisor.
Yeah. So like you would have become the advisor right before, a lot of the
Yeah,
stocks traded
in the
down. So
midst
like
of
that's the
the
hard
madness.
time. So like you'd
That's
have maybe
literally,
started and you'd have been like, okay, we're doing well, and then
yeah.
whoop,
No, 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 no,
just
no.
like
I
Shanice,
came in
what's going
full
on? What's
chaos.
going on,
Mm.
Shanice?
So
Yeah.
it's really difficult to drive that point into people. But I mean, it's what it is. This thing that we're going through, it's not for like a ride. No, it's not a short term thing. We do short term trades, but you have to
Mhm.
have a long term mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So long term is really just a series of short terms. And we're really in this for not just the trade we're doing right now. You make some money, you win the stock market, you come out, boom. Nah, you gotta keep going. It's a journey.
Mhm.
There are ups and downs.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn from the downs, and the ups
Mhm.
are gonna feel even better.
Yeah. I agree.
Mhm.
I
The
agree.
most important thing is, I think, to reflect on what happened. So, okay, you made
Mhm.
a mistake,
Mhm.
and because like even I'm pretty sure I know which stock you're talking about. Well, at least
You
the
probably
the
do.
one that, yeah, because I feel like I know what happened, and then even I was looking back and I was like, why did that happen? And then I was looking at something and I was like, maybe that was something I didn't say that could have happened and stuff like that to
Mhm.
explain it. But you just have to kind of learn from it, yo. Like at the end of the day, it would have been nice to not have to lose money on it, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to just learn from it. As the same thing you said, take a long term approach. Can always make back more money. Just have to learn from this. It's an expensive mistake, and try not to
Mhm.
make that mistake going forward, and then try to
Mhm.
be more forward thinking, because at the end of the day, even the best investors make mistakes. Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, all of those people.
Yeah.
I'm even reading a book now. This guy, Peter Lynch. I don't know if you guys know him.
Mhm. Mhm.
So he was trying to remember the name of the fund he managed. I think it's the Magellan Fund or something. Let me just make sure I'm not butchering it. Yeah, Fidelity Magellan or Magellan. No, Fidelity Magellan Fund, and it's a book. I think it's one up on Wall Street, and he
Mhm.
speaks about like even some of the mistakes he's made. So like there's mistakes that you can make where you put money in the stock, you expect it to go up, it goes down, and it could be a huge loss. And then there's mistakes where these are sometimes even the most painful ones, where there's something that was right in front of you, just didn't look at it, and that's the thing that just shoots up a crazy amount. Like he says, he has this concept, 10 baggers, 10x stocks, and like he does
Mhm.
this example, like he's saying his concept is that the reason it's called one up on Wall Street is that a lot of people, he believes that like your everyday people, just like me and you and me, can
Mhm.
outperform a lot of the analysts and stuff like that,
Of
because a lot of the
course.
times you're on the ground. So like sometimes he was giving examples of sometimes like Apple, like you were saying, oh, he was buying Apple laptops for these people and they were buying Apple laptops and stuff, but he just wasn't looking at Apple because he's like, oh, it's a tech company. He doesn't like to touch tech. But like he was looking
Mhm.
at it back and he's like, it was so obvious. Like if all these people are buying it, like that, he was saying that's the first thing. So you look at the underground stuff, and then you can look at the business fundamentals and other things to do your research. So it's not just, oh, I buy a stock because I love Apple laptops. I first looked at the stock because I love Apple laptops, and then I looked more into it and said, okay, the fundamentals are strong, industry is good, then I'm going to buy it. So
Mhm.
yeah, even the best people make mistakes, guys. We're not perfect. We make losses sometimes, and that's just life. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't have
Mhm.
no risk in anything, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a mistake you can make is thinking that you have all the knowledge that you'll ever need.
That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
Like,
worst mistakes.
Yeah.
no.
Remember what
No. It's like thinking that
yeah.
your strategy is perfect and nothing will ever go wrong. Yeah, no, that's a
Mm-hmm.
mistake.
Buy
Yep.
this and it must go up, right?
Yeah.
Nah. Still
Yep.
shaking in my
Yeah.
boots every time I decide to buy a new stock. Every time
Yeah,
I'm
you
picking
Yeah.
a new
always will.
stock, you do your research, everything, and you're ready to click
It's
buy,
like, yo,
and then all the doubt starts coming. It's like, suppose this don't happen, suppose that don't happen,
yeah.
right?
Even some
Or
stuff I've been
suppose the timelines aren't what everybody else says, which is big
Hmm.
because timelines for a lot of things this year have been pushed back significantly. We got our first
Yes.
yeah.
listing 1GS, was what, August, September of this year. right? Have
Yeah,
we had
let's
any more
push. Yeah,
listings? I don't know if we had any more listings.
not any
I
equity
wouldn't.
raises now.
Yeah, I wouldn't even count AS Bryden or 138 APO. I wouldn't count any of those as like
Yeah,
they're
I
not
wouldn't
that.
count any of the APOs. We've had a couple
Yeah.
APOs this year. Alright.
Like,
Which
We had
one?
so
There's
it's
138.
138. Which one? I know NCB wanted to do APO. Uh,
Was that Sigma's APO? No, that was a preference shares.
there might be one coming soon. Who knows? Who knows?
So it sounds like there's a couple coming soon.
Who
mm,
knows?
A
Yeah,
couple.
yeah,
yeah,
because that signals buyback,
yeah.
buyback.
But
That one day
how?
of buying back. But yeah.
It was more. I was like, I think
Yeah.
3 days or 2 days. But so one of the things I'd like to ask you, how? So we mentioned that okay, made some mistakes. We all make mistakes. But what are some of the things that you think, or what are some of the biggest mistakes that you think investors might make?
Um, some of the biggest mistakes is probably trading on your emotions. Because I think everything is going to stem like around how you're feeling in that moment. It's trading stocks is it's a very emotional thing, and if you're not in a proper state, you're not going to be making the right decisions. You're going to be losing money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one mistake. Trading when you feel too agitated, if your stock going up, you're like, wow, it keeps going up, and your greed starts kicking in. Should I buy? Is it going to go a little further than this? So you jump over most of the analysis that you need to do, and you make a spur of the moment decision
Yeah.
right then and there. Those decisions usually don't work out. So those emotional in the moment decisions are usually like bad ones. Like you wake up one day, you go on Twitter, everybody talking about a one stock. You go on the market, you realize that stock is on a rise. You jump in because everybody's doing this. This must be right. I just feel like I need to do this. I feel like I'm gonna miss out. That fear of missing out.
FOMO.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
That
literally
FOMO.
what
fear
we
of
call the
missing out can
FOMO
really kill
trade.
you. So yeah, man,
Mm-hmm.
the emotional, putting
I've
your emotions before you
I've
like
definitely
it's.
been guilty of that.
We've all been guilty. Every single one of us.
It's
Like
happened
I'm
to me a
guilty of
couple
that.
times. Yeah.
I'm
Or
guilty.
even like a stock of, you do your general analysis, you kind of have it in the back of your mind. Yeah, man, one day I want to buy this. And then all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden you see the stock start move. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, hold on, why is it moving? Let me watch it look a
Right.
bit. And then you
And
jump
then you
into
go
the
in all the
noise.
little groups and
Yeah.
you see them talking about it. You say, "Oh wow, things happening, man. I need to run in."
Mm-hmm. And you go up on Twitter and you see everybody are
You
talking
go
about
on
this
to everybody and
stunk.
talk about it on Twitter.
Stunk.
Everybody will talk about it. Top striker
Can't build.
tweeting about it. You gotta run
Top
in.
strike.
After run in.
Top
But now
striker
Yo,
and tweet
people,
about it. Yeah.
mistake. Don't make those further moments trading decisions like that. It's the easiest way for you to lose
Mm-hmm.
if you don't really fully understand why you're going into it on a personal level, not why everybody else is going to it. Why are you going to make this specific trade at this time?
That will leave you ending up buying certain companies at its peak. I was looking at even I was talking to a friend earlier this year, and he was buying at around $4, right?
Exactly.
And there was so much buzz about iCreate and the rights
Exactly.
issue this year and
Exactly.
so on.
Exactly.
And the stock was flying. Like it was from cents earlier this year, it flew to
we
$4,
should look back
you
at
know.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And because of how
And
much
then
noise that was going
and
on
it
in the
was
stock.
around when it hit $4. That's when the noise was the loudest. So that is when the average person, who the average retail investor is going to be hearing about this stock that just gone up 400-500%.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should take some. So you run
Yeah.
in and it's at
You
40
buy
cents. Put
Shanice
it into
shares.
there. 40
Mm-hmm.
cents.
47 cents
Yo,
today.
That's crazy.
yeah. Like I even there was
That's
an
crazy.
example I remember. You remember when was it 2021 or 2022 when Fesco had its best year,
Mm-hmm.
like the stock flew to like $8 or
Like
something like
eight
that, right?
dollars. Yeah.
And I remember I had Fesco shares and I had bought it from way earlier. Like I bought it at like $5 or $4 something. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was going up $7 and stuff. And I'm like, yo, yep, it's probably time to sell. And then there was a friend of mine, I think this was the weekend right before it probably peaked. A friend of mine, his mom, who doesn't med stocks or anything, like he told me his mom asked him about like, did you hear about like the Fesco stock or something like that? And then that was
Every single
something that
person.
like if you think about it, like that's literally like the peak because if someone who doesn't know anything about stocks is starting to hear about, oh, this stock is rising so much, like well, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, that's probably like a sign to say, hey, if the fundamentals aren't necessarily supporting it, or it just had like a very rapid rise in a short amount of time, and
Yeah.
maybe there isn't anything else that you think would increase it much more, could be time to
Mm-hmm.
sell. So, but in versus, some people might be like, yup, it's time to buy, it's time to buy. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing too is that you have to have your own reason for picking a stock, because remember with stocks, they can go up, but they can go down. So if your reason for picking a stock is just because someone else is talking about it and the stock goes down, sometimes the worst thing to happen is that a stock goes down, you don't understand why it's going down. So you
Mm-hmm.
sell. So say you buy it at $1, it goes down to 80 cents, you sell. And then the next week it shoots back up to $2. Like that's one of the worst things, because you didn't understand why you were buying, like what was
Yeah.
going on in it. So you have to know why you're buying it, because that gives you the conviction. Because there's times where a stock will drop, it's time to either buy more or hold, and then there's times where it's time for you to sell. But understanding why you're in it and understanding what's going on with the business allows you to make that decision more confidently. And at the end of the day, once again, you won't necessarily know if you're right when you're making a decision. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's after that you say, okay, I ended up being right, I ended up being wrong. So you have to know why you're picking that stock. Otherwise, you're kind of just going blind. Going blind. FOMO, guys, careful of FOMO. That's a big, big mistake. Can you think of any other mistakes, Stan? Or any other mistakes, Shanice? I'm trying to think of some.
Other mistakes.
I don't know, yo. FOMO is my biggest mistake. And tying into the whole FOMO aspect was just not knowing what you're buying. I think you really wrapped it up pretty well in that talk, because you really, when the stock goes down a little bit, I agree. Like that's the only thing that's giving you conviction. Yo, I did the research. This is the reason why I bought, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if the reason why I bought hasn't played out yet, or it's not affected by whatever else is going on in the environment, and it can still happen, or it is still very likely to happen, I wouldn't be selling, right? That's what they would call paper hands, right? You have to have those diamond hands, right? Diamond hands.
Diamond hands, bro, to the
Yeah,
moon.
to the moon.
To the
So
moon and back.
and that's even one of our previous episodes where we spoke about how to pick a stock. I guess Preston can leave that link in the description. Um, we really speak about one of the first things is really understanding what you're buying. That's the biggest thing. Why are you buying this? And you always have to be going back with it, right? Bounce the reasoning off of your brethren, right? Or your friend, or that's the power of group chats, right? Just talk about this stock, hear what other people are saying about it, because other people's perception is really big. Not saying take
You
everything,
still
because
have to
that
be
still
careful
can be
though,
FOMO.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some people may be wrong and they might be saying, no, this is this, but you are going, so like you go and are like, hey, I think this could be a play, let's meds this. And the person's like, nah, I don't believe in that. Stock shoot up 100%. You're just like, you can't blame your friend, the friend was just saying, I'm not sure. It's
Mm-hmm.
your conviction. At the end of the day, it's your money.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. Yep. I think a mistake that I kind of learned is that sometimes you, you have to be careful. Like sometimes you can be right about something, but it's just the timing. So it's like sometimes I think that I am seeing things maybe like faster. So like I am say, okay, this company, I'm seeing this going on. I'm like, yo, this is amazing. This is gonna be great. But I have to measure, okay, the market is kind of slow sometimes. So it will take time for people to see what you are seeing. So you might be right. It's just the timeline is wrong. So the timeline is wrong. So maybe your goal, you're like, okay, in 6 months, this is gonna be a banger. But maybe it's 1 year and 6 months instead. So you're just wrong with the timing, but not wrong with what you're actually picking. So that's something that's kind of hard to balance because it's like,
But Preston,
how do you?
they say you can't time the market, bro. What are you talking
Your
about?
time. You can't find a market.
You can't time the market. What are you talking about?
Okay.
But I agree with you there because let me give an example. Uh, I'm trying to find an example this year because we're talking 2023. There's certain things that I wanted to see for Transjam, right? Before Transjam started moving, I wanted to see a lot of hype, and Transjam did start moving before. Okay, let me bring up the stock a bit, but I remember earlier this year, there's certain things we wanted to see. We knew Transjam obviously was developing that new leg of the highway and so on, but that wasn't really advertised yet, right? So there are certain things a lot of investors could be waiting on. Like if you're the astute investor, you know that these Gleaner articles have to come out. People have to drive on the actual highway, or the opening has to be announced for people to start rushing the stock. There are a lot of things that will drag a lot of people. The financials have to look great. You have to look to see big profits. There are a lot of different reasons why the stock could fly. But the stock started moving long before that. So if you were waiting on the whole everybody, like the whole market to see all of those signs, right? Because I remember somebody used to say profits alone don't move stock prices, and I agree. Profits alone don't necessarily move stock prices, but Transjam's profits were moving the price. If you look with that JIO acquisition, they were way more efficient. Their costs were cut. Their profits started, going up. And then they had, of course, they did a preference dividend payment, April of this year and so on. But the stock really did start to move. So one of the things I now have to, and especially Shanice, you said it too, it's harder to trade this year because you don't know what the market perception will be like with certain stocks, right? Or just on a whole. It's different. It feels different. Certain things you'd think profits would move a stock, it doesn't. You'd think certain news articles would come out and move the stock, it doesn't really always move, right? Stocks will still just drop like flies on the faintest hint of bad news. So,
Stocks will
you know,
report good numbers and immediately fall.
stocks will report good numbers and immediately fall. That's true. Very, very true. So,
So yeah,
yeah, learning to navigate the stock market now.
Mhm.
I think even some of my friends, they have a much longer term approach, and I don't think anything is wrong with that.
no.
They said, all right, let's just extend their horizons, forget
Mhm.
about the short term fluctuations and volatility in the market. And they're calling short term like a year or so.
Mhm.
And they say, oh, once it's a good company, in the next three years, they say that, it's going to continue being an amazing company, and they
Mhm.
expect revenues to triple and so on and so forth. Then they're confident buying even in these short term fluctuations that dollar cost averaging, just continuously buy certain companies. And
Mhm.
Ryan said Transjam was his on one of our previous episodes. I also
Mhm.
like Transjam.
That's
I
probably
like
gonna be
Um,
one of the
Transform.
highest dividend players or dividend payers probably on the
It
market
is. It
mhm.
over
is
the next
because
few years.
the 7% this year
Yeah.
that even
Yeah.
was.
People talk about stuff like SBL and stuff like that. Like okay, I guess SBL does pay the quarterly dividends, but if you look at Transjam, even though it's not quarterly, like that kind of yield is just amazing. And then the fact
Yeah,
that
it
it's
is. It
gonna
is.
increase,
Exactly.
like
Exactly. It's gonna increase
you're
next
not
year.
really gonna get that kind of yield almost anywhere else,
Mm-mm.
yo.
The
Yeah.
only other stock you can get something a yield like that from is like Carreras, but you're not really
Yeah.
going to get the cap gains that you can possibly get
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Chan Jamaica from a Carreras.
Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep. 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 And another mistake to that I kind of thought of when you were talking, Theon, that investors might make sometimes. Like even though we're saying okay, and I do agree, we should take a long term approach. It's so hard to because you can have a long term approach, right? And you could be like, okay, I'm just gonna dollar cost average, and then I'm just gonna keep buying. I'm gonna keep buying, and then you know, like you could 5 years could pass and the stock price hasn't moved,
Yeah.
and you might just be saying, okay, the company is doing well, fundamentals and whatever. 10 years passed, stock price still hasn't really moved, and like it's really hard to balance that because suppose 15 years, 20 years past, the stock price has barely moved, and you've just been putting your money in this, and suppose it's not even paying dividends. Like that's a real fear of mine that
Mm-hmm.
I was to say, okay, I'm a long term investor, I'm just gonna keep buying, and the stock price just doesn't move. Like yeah, it's hard because you have to be careful because we even point out there are other things that you have to look at that help to move the price of a stock other than just okay profitability and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a real fair. I think your strategy would have to just change for long term
Mm-hmm.
investing, right? You have to look at different things now, right? You may have to look
Mm-hmm.
at management. Do they have a vested interest in the stock price moving over time? Right? We
Oh,
know quite a few companies like that, right? Are they dividend payers? Because even if the stock price isn't moving, are you
yeah,
earning
at
in the
least at
meantime?
least there's some companies that
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't believe in dollar cost averaging any company that doesn't pay dividends.
Yeah,
I think if you're gonna
I get
DCA
that.
a company, it should be a frequent dividend payer.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. There are lots of things I would look for if I were to really take on. I feel like I could be a good long term investor, right? But
We hope.
I I feel
We
like I
hope
could.
then.
Yeah, I feel like there are
Achieving
lots of
on
Yeah,
her.
because
companies
I
right
mean
now
like
that.
there's certain strategies that like I feel like something like something that I'm even mentioning, right? If I was to be like, say, I'm someone who's coming and I'm like, oh, I want to do a 15-year play, 10-year, 20-year play, and I want to like 10x my money, 20x my money. Like one of the things you can look at is just like on a macro perspective. We all understand things like global warming, greenhouse gases.
Climate
We
change,
understand
yeah.
that climate change. We understand that okay, the world, not just Jamaica, but all countries in the world are going to have to reduce the amount of like fossil fuels and stuff like that they use, and there's gradual movement towards it. Ideally, it should be faster, but there is going to be some gradual movement towards that. So renewable energy or companies are going to likely benefit from that. And so as it gets closer to the time, okay, where global temperatures rise. You mentioned that, like for example, when temperatures rise and you're in like a tropical country or just not even just tropical countries, but as temperatures rise, the energy demand is going to increase because people are going to be using fans and AC and all of that more. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to even increase your energy usage. So you're going to have to like have that switch and things like that. So if I was someone that's making 10, 15-year play, I'd be looking at things like that, renewable energy and stuff like that, because I think that's going to be huge over the next, because we kind of have to, like there isn't really a choice. You're going to have to.
Yeah.
So even stuff like that I think is big. Like that's I think how people were looking at with tech. So maybe people 30 years ago, 20 years ago, they were looking at, hey, the world is this way now, this internet thing is coming up, it's constantly getting better, people are now switching more to online, so companies that benefit from that heavily are going to be some of the next biggest companies, so I am going to invest with that timeline. So there's things like that that you can do when you're like a long-term investor, that you can do that, and then you can also like check up on your investments every now and then, read on the company. You have to be careful too, because some that we're seeing now, if companies love to issue shares and they keep issuing shares at lower prices than the market price, and they do that over and over, that's another thing to watch out for, because if they keep doing that, um, you can run into issues depending on what they're doing with the money. If they're not really doing things to really increase, what would you say, increase shareholder value, yeah, that's another big issue. But
Hmm.
yeah,
You said climate change is a real thing. Shanice, Preston, when was the last time you guys went to a beach?
I went to our beach like a few weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Have you been
uh,
to? Okay, you pressed on.
Probably 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
You guys know which beach? You can say which beach you went to.
I mean, it's my little low key spot still. I don't want to load
Ah,
it
you
up.
don't have to load it up. We can talk off here.
It's a spot in
Yeah.
it's a spot in Ochi though. It's a nice little spot in Ochi.
Oh,
Okay.
the place I went
Okay.
to was in Saint Anne too.
Okay. Have you guys been to that beach a few years before this? Have you noticed a
Yes.
difference in the height of the sea, the closeness to the shore? Is it just me alone?
Mm.
All right.
Actually,
I went to so Preston and I used to stay at
Sandcastles.
no, not like vacation. As med students, we used to stay at Honey Bay and
Oh. Uh-huh.
Columbus Inn or Columbus Cove, sorry.
yeah, I know that.
Around that side. Yeah, Columbus Inn, I believe. Somewhere around, it's like Priory, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was remember there was like a swing and there was some sand and so on. That area now is there's no shore. There's no shore at all. They've built up a cement wall just because of how high the waves have gotten. So for me, climate change is real. And looking internationally, I've realized the IDB and a lot of other, global organizations, they're funding a lot of projects now that are big on renewable energy, right? Big on reducing, the carbon footprint globally. So I agree with you there. Like climate change is huge. It's a big, big industry, and if I'm doing a long term goal like that, there's certain industries that I would look towards. I know health is also getting a lot of funding now, right? Climate change, health, there are a lot of industries now that I would look for and say, all right, who's getting funding? Which companies in Jamaica are doing the dues, right? Which ones are reaching out to these organizations? Which ones are actually investing heavily in things like this that have those good long-term benefits? So yeah, that long-term strategy would definitely have to change, but yeah, I see it. There are lots of other things I would do too if I was a much longer term investor, right? See companies that are scalable as well. Um, I remember someone tweeting from, I think Simon Johnson on Twitter. He used to post just a bunch of random old tweets and so on. And I remember him talking about how someone's parents bought carb cement. And carb cement was like $2, right? Imagine you're a long term investor buying carb cement at $2. And carb cement now is, what is carb cement now? I have not checked carb cement stock price in a long time.
Maybe like
53.
50, yeah, 50 something.
50.
The powers that be.
53,
Powers
right?
that be.
And it's been over $100 already.
Yeah.
I think it went like 140.
Precisely, its highest recorded. So those are the kind of companies, those companies that will always be around, hard for dead, and can grow. Right?
Yeah.
Those are the companies I would look for.
And even also look, even like things like institutions, like something you meant, certain institutions have a a similar goal to us in that they want the share price to be higher. Certain institutions do not have that same goal, and so they do not care about the share price. So if I was being a long-term investor and I am in a boat, we're in the same boat, they control the company.
Yeah.
If they care or they have, they have some amount of control of the company, I would be looking at those kind of companies that want the share price to be up or are affected by the share price. So if the share price goes down, they report a loss. Share price goes up, they report a profit, because they want to make money too. So that's even another thing. So that's something I will definitely watch. You have to be careful in these streets, yo. You have to be careful in these streets. Yeah, but I feel like we've been so kind of doom and gloom. Like we've been talking about a lot of mistakes, but I still want to let's try to be a bit, switch it up and be a little bit positive. So
Yes,
what are
Shanice.
some of what are some of the tips that you would give to investors, like your top strikers, top tips?
top tips.